Welcome back, neophytes. This is Athan Green with ChristianNeophyte.com, helping you learn the faith, grow in Christ, and engage the world around you. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Saints of January. So stay tuned. Much of the info you'll be hearing about today can be found in greater detail on the OCA website, and I'll be putting that link in the description below. Our first saint is commemorated on January 1st of the new year, Saint Basil. Basil like Basilios, not basil like the herb. And here are 3 things you should know about Saint Basil. 1. He is holiness royalty. His family, though wealthy, was full of amazing Christians. His grandparents fled the Diocletian persecution to the forests of Pontus, where they survived for 7 years and eventually were martyred. His mother, also a saint, Saint Amelia, gave birth to 10 children, 5 of which would also become saints: Basil, Marcellinus, Gregory of Nyssa, Peter of Sebaste, and Theosebia. Number 2, he is a polymath. He was first educated by his father, also named Basil, who was a lawyer and rhetorician. After studying at home, he also went to schools in Cappadocia, Constantinople, and Athens. During his time in Cappadocia, he also became good friends with Saint Gregory Nazianzus, also known as Saint Gregory the Theologian, and they fostered this relationship for the rest of their lives. Saint Gregory once said regarding his friend's studies, "He studied everything thoroughly, more than others are wont to study a single subject. He studied each science in its very totality, as though he would study nothing else. He was a ship fully laden with learning to the extent permitted by human nature." Number 3, he was a man of prayer. St. Basil penned many prayers for many different occasions, as well as liturgy. Many of these daily prayers written by him are still in use today, and his liturgy is used 10 times throughout the year, 7 times during Lent, the Nativity, Theophany, and his own name day on January 1st. It's hard to know for sure, but it's widely believed that his liturgy was a shortened version of the liturgy of St. James, the oldest surviving liturgy to date. Your voice resounded throughout the world that received your word, by which, in godly manner, you taught dogma, clarified the nature of beings, and set in order the character of people. Venerable Father, royal priesthood, intercede to Christ God to grant us great mercy. The second saint we'll be talking about today is that of my own namesake, Saint Athanasios the Great. In English, the word is pronounced Athanasios. My friends asked me why I went with Athanasios instead of Athanasius. I said, because, well, Athanasios sounds cooler. Here are 3 things you should know about Saint Athanasios. Number 1, he loved the beach. My favorite story about Saint Athanasios is that as a boy, he and some other children were playing on the beach. More specifically, they were playing pretend church. It'd be nice if our kids played this game more often. Athanasios, from heart, recited the baptismal service and baptized the other kids at the beach. Little did he know, the Patriarch of Alexandria at that time, Saint Alexander, was watching. He was so amazed at what he saw that he deemed the baptisms valid. Number 2, against the Arians. Since then, Saint Alexander took him in, and eventually the boy grew to be his patriarchal deacon. Saint Athanasios traveled with Saint Alexander to the First Ecumenical Council in Nicaea in 325, where they would fight together against the Arians, who taught that Christ was a created being and was not consubstantial with the Father. Number 3, Athanasios against the world. Even though the emperor and the council sided with the Nicaeans, as they were called, this did not last long. Arianism and semi-Arianism would grip the empire and the church for many centuries. But Saint Athanasios refused to back down. Because of this, he was exiled 5 times by 4 different emperors, each time finding a way back into the graces of the state and returning home to Alexandria, where he became bishop after the repose of Saint Alexander. Many would jokingly chant the phrase Athanasios against the world, as it seemed he was one of the few still standing as a pillar of orthodoxy for the church at the time. The majority of his work was done while in exile, and he stayed in constant communication with his flock in Alexandria. God granted him a peaceful repose among his flock, whom he loved dearly, on January 18th in the year 373. Praying to God for us, Holy Saint Athanasios, well-pleasing to God, that we may stand strong for the truth of God, even in the face of indignation, just as thou hast stood as a steadfast pillar for the church, for thou art the speedy helper and intercessor for our souls. Well, that's it for the saints of January. We celebrate a saint every day in the Orthodox Church, and there are many other amazing saints in January, but thought we might save some of those for next January. If you're interested in some of the other work we are doing here on the Neophyte, click here to check out our Let's Visit series. If you liked this video, toss it a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more weekly content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.